back to us.
It was just a little thing requiring my attention.
We've got an extremely delicate mission for you, if you're interested.
Mm-hmm. Always interested. Just send me the briefing.
Is that what I've seen? Jesus, run! Help!
5 of us started out in what you call the demo scene in Denmark. This is young kids doing reverse engineering, doing swapping discs at that point. They just wanted to do games, and you couldn't do that in Denmark in mid-80s, so they drifted somehow, west over. It's ended up in UK, ended up in North America. And 10 years later, they came back to Copenhagen. We decided to set up a company. Most of the publishers were pretty interested in what we were doing. It was, at that point, a very preliminary Hitman character.
It started out, way different from what it is now. First of all, he had hair to begin with, and he was a lot more cartoony than he is now. And then mainly due to, I guess, the visions of Rasmus Kjær, who is our creative director now, he turned into this much more sinister and cool character, and he ended up being this guy who's a clone of a multitude of genes from, ingenious people.
They are guys who ended up in a French foreign legion, and these guys at some point team up to create this perfect human being using their own genes. And the premises for the character was that it should be a badass character, a politically non-correct character, a provocative type of guy, although very limited space for him to develop because he wasn't a real human, he was a clone.
Dr. Ortmeyer created Mr. 47. No one else has successfully created a Class 1 human clone. Dr. Ortmeyer literally wrote the book.
If you look at the Hitman games, then there isn't that much story in the first ones. It's just the stuff there is just cool. So right now we have all these little pieces of history that we sort of opened up during the different games. We can always go back to that and tell a little more about that, so we can sort of patch on the story and things that were out in the dark before you didn't really know what was going on there. You can hint just a tiny little line somewhere in the history, and that makes the whole thing come together if you are a fan and if you dig the story and all that. It's such a big deal to do a game that initially when you do a new concept, you have so much focus on just making the stuff work that you can't really spend that much time getting to know the character, the story and all that. So the first thing is just, yeah, we did a game, fine. And then you have some calm because a lot of the initial design things you have to come up with, you already figured out. So you don't have to spend time on that, so you can spend more time into delving into the background of the character and all that stuff. And it's a little bit of a cliche, but it always works pretty well. But we have the hunter become the hunted. So we have this semi-failed clone who is like tracking down Hitman all throughout the storyline, and who he, of course, will have a confrontation with at some point.
Letter for Mr. Julio.
Thanks. Code red. You forgot your tip.
That's all right.
I insist. On the table by the bathroom.
There was a lot of ambition behind Hitman Blood Money. We wanted to really do something new with the Hitman franchise.
Our goal was to, when you grab the controller or keyboard, whatever, and played the game, everything had to feel new. Like, it had to feel 100% like this is a new Hitman game. So we, first of all, we changed the control system to have a more elaborate camera control system. We also developed a new engine, not a patched up previous engine, but a new render engine. And we have a new script engine, and we have new AI behavior totally made up from the bottom. And all that makes what was the tools that we needed to make the coherent gameplay that we wanted. Like, we have so many new features that if everything was sort of anarchistically implemented, then it would just become too confusing from the player perspective.
We actually succeeded in building a new crowd system where I think in the end we have the system can actually manage 3,000 characters simultaneously on the level. So the minute you walk into the street, there's just people everywhere.
There's a lot of work put into the base AI. If you just take some guards and put them into the level and start shooting, they will start to gather their friends, and they will find out where's Hitman, what's all this noise about, what is going on, and they will start attacking, gather their friends, maybe call for backup if Hitman has a more powerful weapon than they do. They will start to look for cover points where they can hide if Hitman is shooting back. All that is as a base AI. But then again, there's another layer on top of that base AI, which are different from level to level. That's all the special characters in the level. They behave in several ways. So the drunk lady has a special way of coming around, and all those. The reception girl has a special way of. So that's a lot of that is scripted or code specifically for that level. But it's all laying on the base AI.
When you're walking through the level, you shouldn't be in situations where all of a sudden 10 guards come rushing at you, guns blazing, and you say, why did that happen? This time around, it's much better in that regard, that you go somewhere where you're not supposed to be, people come say, hey, you get out of here, or you'll find clues in how other characters on the level behave, what they do, where you can go, what you can do, and put in a lot more of these hints.
It's a completely new aspect to the Hitman game, that you actually you gain notoriety as you play through the different levels. Civilians will begin recognizing you if they get a good look at you.
One of my colleagues were playing through the game a few days ago, and he was gaining a really high notoriety. And it actually means that the NPCs, the characters in the world, they respond to you differently. And he goes into the level, into the White House, and goes through the metal detector, and in come some tourists. The tourists, they spot a newspaper laying on one of the discs with a picture of Hitman, and one of the woman in front just looks at the paper and looks at Hitman, saying,
"Holy Christ, it's that bald psycho from Vegas!"
She turns around, just runs out of the White House.
There are a number of ways to bribe your way out of the notoriety. So you can bribe the witnesses to get rid of them, and you can bribe police officers, and you can actually also more or less buy a whole new identity, which will more or less just clear your whole notoriety. The money is used for bribing, but also, and more importantly, you can use them for upgrading your weapons.
His weapon arsenal consists of 5 weapons, and for each of those guns you have around 10 upgrades, which makes your weapon a lot better to use, more precise, more steady, and more firepower. The shotgun I made a silencer, which is not normally something you would see on a shotgun. And I really hope that people would enjoy playing around with these custom weapons.
With Hitman Blood Money, we actually made a game where Hitman has been taken to a whole other level of a lot greater interactivity. Hitman can push people, he can headbutt people, there's fire extinguishers.
Now he has much more flexible movement. He can jump, he can climb up ledges and scale walls and all that. And when we sat down, the programmers, we was sitting down and talking about how should we do this.
Motion capture is a way of recording motion. We have actors and stuntmen who's wearing a special kind of suit which has little silver balls attached to the joints, and some very special cameras which are surrounding the